Hello, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Cricket for Us, and today we're going to discuss the 2-month-long season of the IPL 2022, and I have our resident cricket connoisseur, Aaron. How you doing, man?
Very good, to be honest, Asjad. Yeah, very good indeed. Obviously, this isn't IPL related, but my beloved Warwickshire currently unbeaten in the 2022 T20 Blast, so that's been absolutely lovely. And then, of course, we have had the IPL. It's been fantastic. We'll discuss that at more length in today's show. And then, as if that wasn't enough, international cricket returning this week. England versus New Zealand. What a time to be alive.
100%. And we're going to touch upon England, New Zealand, not in this video or the video after that, but we will cover it later on in the week sometime. But dude, the IPL. Now, you know this better than I do, that I was unable to watch a lot of the IPL this season. However, parts I saw, found it very entertaining. Not my best IPL. I think for me, IPL 2021 was my favorite, not just because CSK won, right? But also because, RCB, no, sorry. It's just because CSK won. And I liked the fact, it was split into two, but it worked out to be a really good tournament. KKR got to the final. But in this particular occasion, it was like Gujarat Titans and Rajasthan Royals just seemed like finalists since half of the tournament, right? Since half of the league. 6-7 matches in, it was like Gujarat and Rajasthan easily get into the final. And then thankfully, Lucknow coming in, your beloved RCB coming in, and then the other teams just fighting for that number 4th spot. So it was quite entertaining, I'm not going to lie. But the most disappointing thing for me were the bottom 2 teams of this season, which were, unfortunately for me, Chennai Super Kings and then Mumbai Indians. Now, it's no surprise that I'm a CSK fan, but this was just a horror show for them. And in this video, we're not going to go into deep, dark depths into each individual team. We're just going to talk about it as a review. But first question I want to ask you, Aaron, were you surprised by the position of CSK and MI at the end of the season?
Well, to answer that question, I think you'd have to skip back to the preview show after the auction. And I said 2022 was going to be a write-off year for Mumbai. They were never investing in winning the IPL trophy in 2022. That's why they brought in the likes of Tilak Varma. It's why they retained Ishan Kishan for so much money. It's why they brought in the likes of Devalt Brevis and gave him an opportunity. This was almost a transition year. 2023, I'll be a lot harsher if they do not make the playoffs. But I think for this year, for Mumbai, given the auction that they had, given the strategy that they tried to employ, I was kind of expecting that, to be honest. When it came to CSK, the complete opposite. Absolute mess, absolute shambles, a debacle, in fact. Second bottom, their auction strategy was massively just, it was baffling.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Let's be honest, we didn't really have an answer to what tactics, what strategy they were trying to employ at the auction. Then they had the whole thing with the captain as well. 1 minute Jadeja, then they revert back to MS Dhoni. For the future, that does not bode well for the men in yellow. They've got to make a clear decision on who the next captain is in that line of succession. Will it be Jadeja? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But as if that wasn't enough, they also didn't have a single player score more than 400 runs in this year's tournament. Honestly, 2022, yes, they did have some close games, but for the most part, a really, really underwhelming season for an incredibly successful franchise. So I think for that reason, of the two, who I was more disappointed in, absolutely the Chennai Super Kings. You've gone from champions to second bottom in the space of a season. Yeah, improvements needed for the men in yellow.
100%. And I like that you addressed the Mumbai Indians factor, because they weren't looking at this season. They realized it's a rebuilding season for them, and that makes sense that they were number 10. That is why when you look at CSK, because even after the auction, I was still a bit confident. They still had Gaikwad, they had Jadeja, they had Bravo, they had MS Dhoni. Yes, a lot of these players might be a bit on the older end, okay, but they still looked like a solid unit. But they weren't clicking. And the funny thing is, I said this on a video that I made, and I made 2 videos on the IPL this season, and one of them was just based on CSK getting hammered and Ravindra Jadeja, for lack of a better term, crumbling under the pressure of captaincy, right? It didn't seem like the Ravindra Jadeja we're used to. And by the end of it, he was dropped, wasn't he? And Mitchell Santner was in his place. effectively. So it was really interesting the way CSK season went, but I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. Now let's talk about some happy thoughts, right? Let's talk about the two new teams. Let's talk about Gujarat Titans and Lucknow Super Giants. Their auctions, for me, I thought both their auctions went really well. If you remember, we had this conversation. But how did you find their season as a whole?
To be honest, Asjad, very impressive. You know, these were two teams. I said it in that auction video. They had to make a statement. The worst thing that you could do as a new franchise is finish bottom. And I thought both teams, I think a lot of people, myself included actually, thought Lucknow did have the better team on paper. Obviously, it was unlucky that we didn't get to see Mark Wood in that light blue jersey. But I still think both sides actually had decent auctions. And, you know, I just want to touch upon the Gujarat Titans, if I may, in a bit more detail, because as this season has gone along, I've really liked this team more and more. Even from the branding, even from the marketing, the song, which is a brilliant theme song, might I just say, Avade, in Gujarati means bring it on. And I just looked at their auction strategy, and you just think of the players. All of them had a point to prove, didn't they? Shubman Gill, cast aside by the Kolkata Knight Riders after 3 seasons of relatively consistent performances, but there's always the question of the strike rates. In 2022, he's finished with a strike rate higher than Hardik Pandya. Talking of Hardik Pandya, one of the most successful players in the Indian Premier League, but he's always been in the shadow of the likes of a Rohit Sharma, of a Kieran Pollard, of a Quinton de Kock. This was his franchise. This was his big opportunity. And he's proved all of the critics wrong. Rashid Khan, there was that massive talk, the massive discourse, wasn't there, about the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Who are they going to retain? Will it be Kane Williamson or Rashid Khan? They went for Kane Williamson. Rashid Khan has just proven why he's one of the best T20 players on the planet. And then you got David Miller. Again, someone who people always talk about when it comes to consistency, hasn't had a good IPL for a number of seasons now. And then this year, he was absolutely fantastic. So for the Gujarat Titans, and that's just the players, might I just add, that's not even talking about the coaches in Gary Kirsten and Ashish Nehra, 2 coaches who, as I know as an RCB fan, got heavily criticised for their management of my franchise. So as a whole, Gujarat's obviously the champions, and congratulations to the home team putting on a masterclass in front of 125,000 people in Ahmedabad. But they were really impressive. And to be honest, so were Lucknow. They really were, finishing 3rd in the table. In the eliminator, they completely lost their heads. Yeah. Obviously, there was that moment when Rajat Patidar was dropped on 72, went on to score 112. Right? So it's one of those. It does happen in these pressure situations. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But for these two teams, they've massively achieved their goals. They've came into the IPL, they've made a statement. And I tell you what, given the average ages of both squads, they look pretty dangerous, not just heading into 2023, but also into the years beyond as well.
Yeah, and it's great to see that, right? You know, we talk about the bench of the Indian lineup, right? We talk about the young players coming into the Indian setup. But because of players like, no offense, like these players are great, like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, MS Dhoni, Ravindra Jadeja. You know, a lot of big Indian names are getting older. So seeing a young captain in Hardik Pandya, seeing a young player, young batsman in Shubman Gill thrive in this new franchise was fantastic. You saw Rahul make the exact same mistakes he made for Punjab Kings, right? Even in this team, thankfully, though, he had Quinton de Kock to an extent, right? But it just seemed like LSG for me were getting into that Rahul mentality that he had with Punjab Kings. But on the other hand, you mentioned Hardik Pandya coming out of the shadows. Dude, he came out of the shadows and absolutely smashed it. Number 4, number 5, and number 6 in the top run scorers are all Gujarat Titans. You got Shubman Gill, Hardik Pandya, and David Miller. And they're all like 5 or 6 runs apart from each other, which tells you the consistency and the brave call that Pandya made in batting at number 4, right? In changing his position if need be. But number 4 slot, I never thought of him as a number 4 batsman until this particular season, because I was like, oh, he'll come in maximum 5, maybe probably 6. But regularly at number 4 and scored, again, all 3 of them above 480 runs this season. So they were just outstanding. And I'm not even talking about the bowlers right now, right? Rashid Khan, you got Mohammad Shami as well, right? Lockie Ferguson, right? He toppled Umran Malik's super speediness. What was it? 97.7 miles an hour, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, so very quick bowling there. But overall, Gujarat Titans looked the best unit. They lost 4 games in the entire season. That's 16 matches. They won 75% of their games. That is just brilliant from a team. And thankfully, from them and for all the Gujarat fans, they won the title. They won the championship because they were the deserved winners. So Gujarat Titans, once again, from everyone at Cricket for Us and the Cricket Connoisseur, congratulations to you guys. Let's go into, from your perspective, the best moments of the season. Obviously, we have to put the championship or winning the championship to the side, right? No trophy, right? We can't use that. It doesn't have to be a number. You don't have to talk about 10 or 2. Just in your opinion, some of the best moments from your perspective.
Well, first and foremost, Asjad, I do have to mention just one thing from the final, and that was Shubman Gill hitting the match-winning 6.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we talk about silencing critics. What a way to do it. Obviously, I'm here in my RCB shirts. Nothing gets much better than Rajat Patidar's 112 in the Eliminator. Honestly, that is the happiest I've been as an RCB fan in years. Honestly, I can't even begin to express the emotions that I was witnessing on that night. As I said, he was dropped on 72, dropped on 93, and then out of nowhere, he just kept on blistering it to all parts of the boundary at Eden Gardens. Also, great stat, the first ever uncapped Indian batter to score a century in the IPL playoffs. So Rajat Patidar, wow. Remember the name. He is absolutely fantastic. Great player of spin as well. Finished this year's IPL with a strike rate of 177 against spin bowling. So definitely someone to watch out for heading into the future. I imagine he'll get quite the hefty pay rise after not even been selected at the auction by the men in red and black. In terms of another moment, I'd probably go Rashid Khan's last ball 6 against the Sunrisers Hyderabad at the Wankhede. Absolutely brilliant moment. That was arguably the closest game of the season as well. I can think of another one between CSK and Mumbai, but just that last ball 6, flick off the pads. I could not believe that as it went for 6. Like, it's just an unbelievable end to an astonishing game. And in the end, that could have cost Sunrisers their playoff spots. And then I did mention that Mumbai CSK game. MS Dhoni. Absolute masterclass. That was vintage Mahendra Singh Dhoni. We haven't seen enough of it in recent years, but I think the bowler was in Adcat. I'm pretty sure it's Jaydev in Adcat. And he scored 16 runs at the death, won the game with a 4. Yeah, they would be my top 3 moments, I think, from this year's IPL. I've probably missed loads. Dinesh Karthik as well, fantastic. Again, plenty of good moments from him this season. And obviously Umran Malik, the emergence of him in this tournament. But I think those would be my top 3 off the top of my head.
I like that you gave an honorable mention to DK, because that was going to be my next question. How impressed were you with Dinesh Karthik this season? Because it's just, I know he's done it in the SMAT, right? He does it in the Sayyid Mushtaq Ali Trophy quite regularly, even through the years. But in IPL, he hasn't been able to show that over the past couple of years. But this season, there was a light under him or something, like a fire under him to light him up. Dude just went absolutely ballistic. There's a really interesting stat by Jared Kimber. He was talking about how good he's gotten against pace and the smashing pace for 6. And it was just outstanding. Very, very impressive. A couple of words on yours truly, Dinesh Karthik.
Announce contract extension at RCB first and foremost. Lock him down for another couple of seasons. And congratulations as well to Dinesh Karthik back in the India setup. What an incredible story that is for Dinesh Karthik. I think we all remember the 2017 Nida Harsh Trophy, the finishing masterclass in that tournament. And I'm delighted for him. And you know what? It's the first 3 games of the tournament, averaging 197 in the IPL. I could not believe it. I was living in dreamland, to be completely honest, Asjad. At the auction, I was like, have we really paid this much for Dinesh Karthik? He didn't have the greatest of seasons last year for KKR. Had that venture into captaincy. It didn't quite work out. How's he going to fit into the 11 at RCB with the likes of Kohli and Duplessis and Maxwell? And he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. He's finished the tournament with a strike rate of 183. That is absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. That is elite finishing from one of India's finest death over specialists. So Dinesh Karthik, take a bow. The only thing that I would say, yes, he has got that imperious strike rate against pace. And when there is a bit of pace on the ball at the death, you know he's going to send it absolutely flying. But my one worry from this season, if I'm being completely honest, he still has a massive vulnerability against leg spin.
Yeah.
And we saw that in both of the playoffs. He didn't look comfortable at all. So that's something for him to work on. But in terms of initial signs from this season, incredibly promising. Obviously delighted for him. And yeah, DK, no pressure, but more of the same next year, please. On the RCB faithful.
Oh man, he was by far, for me personally, you might think of someone else, but for me, he was the most impressive player from an RCB perspective. I absolutely loved the way he batted. You talked about Patidar, right? You talked about Patidar's century, but DK was just up there. Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't expect it from him. I genuinely had the same thought you had. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a Saha moment. No offense to Saha, who actually played quite well this season as well when he came in, right? Opening up as well. So I had that feeling, but both of them proved me wrong, which is great from an Indian and IPL perspective. And coming back into the Indian setup of things, something that I didn't think was going to happen, right? 3 years ago, I was like, yeah, Dinesh Karthik never coming back. Dude did a stint in commentary, right, last year because he was potentially his career was over. But no, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon after a performance like this. We have the official purple cap and the orange cap holders. I don't want you to just base it on that. What I'm going to ask you now, I'm going to ask you, who in your opinion was the best bowler of the season and who was the best batsman? Doesn't ideally mean that the person who got the most wickets was the best bowler. Might be. Or the person who scored the most number of runs was the best batsman. It might be. But who in your opinion is the best bowler and the best batsman? And just as a left field point of view there, the best fielder of the season?
Well, before I go too cliche with the choices for bowler and batter, I'll go with the fielder, Riyan Parag. Finished with the most catches in the tournament, 17 catches. I believe the second highest tally was 10 from Mike Agarwal, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, I was so surprised when there was that drop in the qualifier. Genuinely, I couldn't believe it. I was like, Riyan Parag just dropped a catch. Yeah. He's got like magnet hands. It's incredible, to be honest. Yeah. Great energy in the field, attacks the ball, and that's something which is so pivotal for any young fielder. Close down those angles, attack the ball, get it in nice and quickly, prevent those quick ones and twos, and he does that incredibly well. So I'd go Riyan Parag. Very, very safe pair of hands indeed for the Rajasthan Royals. And talking of the Royals, I think they're actually going to complete a clean sweep here when it comes to individuals, because Yuzvendra Chahal, purple cap holder, and Asjad, I watched our preview video the other day. Yeah. Guess who my pick for the purple cap was?
Yuzvendra Chahal.
I back my boys. Simple as that. 27 wickets, 19.51 average, 7.75 economy rates in Mumbai. That is so impressive at the Wankhede and the DY Patil, grounds which are so conducive to seam in comparison to other venues in India. It's brilliant. And you know what? It was a brand new franchise. He did have a point to prove. He was a marquee name, obviously. He's just come from a franchise where he was the club's all-time leading wicket taker. Yeah. There was a lot of pressure on Chahal this season to produce the goods. And he did just that. So my choice for bowler would be Yuzvendra Chahal, with a very, very honourable mention to my boy Wanindu Hasaranga, 26 wickets. Absolutely fantastic. Cheeky 5 for 18 as well. So yeah, Wanindu does deserve a lot of plaudits as well. And then when it comes to the best batsman, come on, it was always going to be Jos Buttler. 863 runs, an average of 57, a 149 strike rate. It's the second most runs in a single IPL season in the history of the competition, surpassing David Warner's 848. He tied the record for the most centuries in a single IPL season with a tally of 4, the same as Virat Kohli. It was just the year of Jos Buttler. But you know what's absolutely incredible about that? Just to put that into context, the all-time leading run tally was Virat Kohli in 2016, when we should have won, to be completely honest. I'm still not over it 6 years later, as you can tell. But 973 runs, and Kohli played one less game.
Yeah, he did.
So not only is that record still intact by 110 runs, right? But Kohli that's just dominance. You know, I don't think we're ever going to see that record being broken, to be honest, unless they implement a 12 or 14 team IPL and we get 18 fixtures a season. It's spectacular. So Joss Buttler, Joss the Boss, the Universe Joss, whatever you want to call him, absolutely, unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, my batsman of the 2022 IPL.
I'll tell you this, right? I completely agree with all of your points. A Rajasthan Royals clean sweep. But Joss Buttler could have quite easily beaten Virat Kohli's record if he didn't have those, like, what was it, 5 to 6 terrible games in the league stages. After the first 7, I genuinely thought, oh, he's going to beat him. He's going to beat him. I was like, he's getting 1,000. But he just went a bit, like, low. His strike rate went down. His run scoring ability just seemed like, oh, maybe it's like Sanju Samson, but an extended version of a Sanju Samson season. But he came back, and he came back with a bang with that 100 as well. I was like, dude, how many did you say? It's 4 centuries, right? Yep. This season. Outstanding. Absolutely brilliant. There's another batsman who I've actually already mentioned. It's KL Rahul, right? Every year, the last 4 years, correct me if I'm wrong, the last 4 seasons, he's been in the top 3 run getters every season. And his team just... Right, go on.
He has, 2019 third, 2020 second, 2021 orange cap, and now this year second. Incredible consistency, but Asjad, and this is key, and I believe this point was actually made by Sanjay Manjrekar, I think it was.
Yes, it was, yeah.
If he is to make that next step up, it's all well and good having those individual accolades. Yeah. He does need to change his strike rate. That's something that does need to happen. Shubman Gill tried it this summer, and we saw it. So that's the only thing I would say, KL Rahul. He's an incredible player. Absolutely remarkable. Just dominates the IPL every single year. But there are certain situations when he's in such a strong team, as the Lucknow Super Giants have, sometimes he needs to play the situation better. And I know that's incredibly, incredibly nitpicking. Right, I get that. But KL Rahul is such an elite player. He can be even better. And yes, those run tallies, they might take a bit of a hit. But again, it's for the greater good of the team. Would you rather have the orange cap? Or would you rather have the IPL trophy? And I think that is going to be the key thing for him moving into 2023 and beyond with this franchise.
And it's unfortunate, isn't it? It's unfortunate because he's so good. But I agree. As soon as he changes that aspect of it, LSG is going to benefit. India is going to benefit. And it's going to be great news from a KL Rahul perspective. Right. Last couple of questions. First, very important question. And a lot of people were asking this. I have my own take. I'll give you my point of view afterwards. But was the 10-team format worth it? Is that the right call? I'm not saying change it. I'm just asking, do you think it was the right decision by the IPL?
Personally speaking, and I say this as someone who's watched every single IPL religiously since 2008, I don't have a problem with 10 teams because they did it in 2011. But I was doing the maths on this, and I did look actually how long that tournament lasted in 2011. It lasted for 51 days, whereas this one lasted over 60.
Yeah.
It's a massive, massive difference. There were so many more double headers in 2011, which made the tournament seem almost just the right length.
Yeah.
And it ended as a really good, compelling, gripping tournament. Obviously, apart from the final, RCB got absolutely battered. But other than that, other than the final, which I'd rather forget about and still can't, it was a good tournament. It felt just enough, but it left you wanting more. Whereas in this year's IPL, and I don't think it's just down to 10 teams, I think the scheduling as well, 65 days, I think it was, 65, 66 days. The games are lasting for 4 hours as well.
And sometimes you have more. They go longer than 4 hours as well, which is shocking for a T20. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just something I just don't understand why it keeps happening over and over again.
I agree, Asjad. Well, I think first and foremost, we all know what it is. It's money. I mean, look at the strategic timeouts. 2.5 minutes. And there's now not just one. You've got 2 per innings.
Yeah.
So that's 10 minutes of strategic timeouts. They used to be 1 minute long. And they used to be 1. Right? So that's now adding an extra 10 minutes on per game. And then this point has been brought up by so many people. Obviously, I'm an avid IPL fan. I'm going to watch it year in, year out. I absolutely adore this tournament. And unfortunately for myself and my health, I do love RCB far too much. But one thing which is really off-putting to the casual fan is the amount of adverts and sponsorships.
Yeah.
You know, with a tournament like the IPL, it's the premier T20 cricket tournament, in my view. And again, people are allowed to disagree with that. But it's meant to be this real premier showpiece. Let the action do the talking. Every single minute. And it's not up to the commentators, obviously. They're just doing their job. But the action is ruined by these shout-outs and these sponsorship deals and all this corporate white noise. And it's taken away from the action. And that's one thing, I've been told this by my friends who are more casual IPL fans. They just couldn't sit through it. They want to watch the cricket. They're looking for the likes of a Joss Buttler, a Liam Livingstone. They're looking for the likes of a Jofra Archer in seasons gone by, but they can't sit through it. For a casual cricket fan, an IPL game now is turning more and more into 4 hours of, yes, there's some cricket, but also adverts. It's like 4 hours of adverts. It's not sustainable. And I think for the IPL, if they're going to... I mean, there's talk that they're going to make it longer as well. I think that's the wrong idea, absolutely. You know, there's already a packed enough international cricket schedule. The IPL is already long enough. And yes, I understand that money talks, and if it does happen, it will happen. It's not up to us as fans. It's not up to us as stakeholders in the game. But the worst thing that the IPL can do is extend this tournament even further and continue along this corporate road. It's taken away from the action. So that's all I would say. It has removed from the viewing experience slightly. Again, it hasn't put me off because I've watched every single day of the tournaments. That's just, you know, what I'm like. But I think for the future, that is something definitely for the BCCI to be aware of. And I think we saw that this year with the viewing figures. Viewing figures on TV and live streams were massively down. And I do think that is part and parcel of the reason why. Yeah,
and that's one of my reasons for why, even though I love the fact that it's 10 teams, I think a complete change of schedule might have made more sense, or a change of format. And I understand that a league has to be one league. Okay, I understand that concept. But for me, it would have been a lot easier to have 2 groups, right? And then it transfers into a 6-team league or something like that. Personally, that's what I would have liked. But that's not technically a league, which is why they haven't done it, because there's got stages and things like that. But fair point. Now, I liked the 10 teams. I really backed the 10 teams. I was like, maybe this is the right way to go. But 65 days for, what is it, around 70 odd matches, you can easily have half of them as double headers. But obviously, during the daytime or in the afternoon, not many people are going to come into the stadium because it's hot. Not that many people are going to watch on TV because they're at work, right? They have to take all that into consideration. But we also have to understand it is unsustainable. I agree with you there. I'm really upset by the fact that it was that long, because I was expecting something like 55 days would have been, like 50 to 55 days for a 10-team league makes sense to me. Like, even the PSL to me just felt a bit stretched out, but this was just way too much. I couldn't even cover it properly. And the viewing figures, all right, I'm going to be upfront and honest with everyone watching. I think I did like 1 or 2 streams max. I didn't get many views in terms of viewers coming on, like watching my stream. I think the maximum in a row I got was like 20 or like 25, something like that, which last year I was getting like 60. So the comparison, this genuine analytics that I've got that tell me compared to last year, this year was just a completely different show. And not many people, I feel the same as you. I don't think as many people were watching the season or the league like they were last year or the year before. It could also be the fact that, you know, lockdown is technically over, so people aren't at home. That could also take into consideration. But if we're talking about just in India, viewing figures in India, those were even down, which is a surprise, isn't it? Thank you for that in-depth analysis on the 10 teams. Last and final question, Aaron. If you had to pick a team of the season, IPL 2022 team of the season featuring the Cricket Connoisseur, what would that go like?
Right, can I just say this is by far and away the toughest question of the entire show. I did try my best. I really did. And again, I've got variations depending on if you want the 4 overseas allocation or if we can be a bit more lenient. But I've gone with Joss Buttler and Rahul as my openers. I've gone with Quinton de Kock at 3. I've gone with Sanju Samson at 4. At 5, I've gone David Miller / Deepak Huda, again, depending on If we're doing it like an actual IPL 11, if you're allowed multiple overseas, then I'd go with David Miller. I thought he'd had an absolutely fantastic campaign. At number 6, Liam Livingstone, 183 strike rate. Simple as that. Scored 437 runs, I believe, as well. So went with Livy. Number 7, as the captain, I know he was batting at 4, but he can be a finisher. He's done it in the past for Mumbai. I've gone with Hardik Pandya. Number 8, my boy, Wanindu Hasaranga de Silva. Had to go with him. Yuzvendra Chahal is my number 9. And this is where it gets interesting. Because these two, well, one of them actually did finish towards the top, but Keeso Rabada had more wickets than both of these choices. So he is an honourable mention for the Punjab Kings. I've gone with Umran Malik, the breakthrough star from the Sunrisers Hyderabad. And I've gone with Mohsin Khan. Now, Mohsin Khan only played 9 games, but the key thing for me was just how impressive he was. He added an extra dynamic to that Lucknow bowling attack with a left arm angle. And you look at his economy rates in a league like the IPL, which is being played in Mumbai and Kolkata. Incredibly high scoring venues, the likes of the Wankhede, Braeburn, DY Patil, and Eden Gardens in the Eliminator. And he's finished the season with a 5.96 economy rate as a seam bowler who bowls in the power play. So for that reason, Mohsin Khan and Umran Malik, they'd be my 10-11, and that is my 2022 IPL 11 with Dinesh Karthik as 12th man.
Fantastic. I am surprised you didn't put DK in, I must say. I was surprised you didn't have DK in. I'm surprised you didn't consider Mohammad Shami in this list, but it's good, interesting. No, fair enough. Fair enough. If you want to give your reasoning, we have time. Reasoning?
Well, I said that with Mohsin Khan, and then with Umran Malik, again, just outstanding, wasn't it? 22 wickets. I understand the economy rate. That's what people will look at straight away. I think it was 9.03. Someone might have to quote me on that. But yeah, he did lose the radar at times, but just pace.
Yeah.
What was it? The Swiggy Instamart fastest delivery of the game. I'm surprised he didn't bankrupt the company. They might as well just hire him as the face, to be completely honest. Every single game after the Sunrisers, it was hilarious. You just cut to the post-game press conference and the interviews, and he's there holding up the check every single game without fail. So, yeah, that's why I went Umran Malik. I want pace. I want that dynamic nature of my seam attack. Go with Hardik Pandya, and then you've got the extra spinner in Liam Livingstone. Jobs are good, and that would win the IPL, that team.
Do you know what? The funny thing is that if you go back, let's say let's go back 7 years, I wouldn't have thought of an IPL team, the best IPL team of a season, not having an overseas fast bowler. And in this team, you don't have an overseas fast bowler, and I couldn't doubt it. Like, it makes sense to me. You've got Umran Malik, you've got Mohsin Khan, you've got Hardik Pandya as well. And then in terms of your bowling, you've got Yuzvendra Chahal, but you've got spinners like Liam Livingstone and Wanindu Hasaranga. But in terms of pace, there's just Indian pace. So it's a very interesting way how India's entire setup has changed. And as you mentioned, if it is a 4 overseas system, instead of David Miller, you'll play Deepak Huda. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. He can bowl a bit too.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I think about these things.
Fantastic. All right. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Aaron. I really like your team. Again, I don't agree with it completely. However, I don't think I could come up with one as quick as you did with the last minute notice that I gave you. So well done on that. Thank you so much for joining. Really do appreciate it, man. For everyone watching, please do like, share, and subscribe. Do check out the Cricket Connoisseur on every single platform in the entire universe. You're going to love it. You're going to love the County Cricket podcast. You'll love it on Flow Sports. Check out Flow Sports. He's there all the time. He's on actual television. I've got someone from actual TV on here, which is just outstanding. Thank you. And until next time, take care.